Our Around the World segment tonight, Iran's President Rouhani claimed last week that Donald Trump can't overturn the nuclear deal even if he wants to. Rouhani said it's a deal among multiple nations and the U.S. doesn't have the unilateral power to do that. I guess President Rouhani is forgetting about his nation's multiple violations of the deal, which would, under any honest standards, render the deal broken by Iran anyway. With me to break it down, Senior Research Fellow for Middle Eastern Affairs at the Heritage Foundation, Jim Phillips. Jim, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks so much for being here. Jim, let's just get right to the point here. President Rouhani of Iran, his assertion that Trump cannot overturn this nuclear deal, that's not true.
Oh, that's right. This deal was purposefully structured as an executive agreement by the Obama administration in order to do an end run around Congress, which it knew would not approve a treaty. So because it's an executive agreement, it can be abrogated by an executive agreement.
Right, and I guess I want to know exactly how this would be done, because Iran is correct in one sense. This is not just a deal between the United States and Iran, but Jim, I don't know about you, I would have no compunctions reneging on this deal with a nation like Iran, given their abuse, their sponsorship of terrorism, the violations of the deal itself. But before we even get to those details, how would President Trump go about revoking this?
Well, he could come into office his first day and declare that Iran has violated the deal. But on the other hand, it may be worth his while to conduct a review of the way that Iran has handled the deal and then present findings to the other parties that signed the deal, arguing that not only has Iran violated the nuclear deal itself, but it's violated the spirit of the deal by continuing to support terrorism, continuing to shoot ballistic missiles, which are prohibited under the UN Security Council resolution that enshrined the deal, and that therefore the U.S. is well within its rights to terminate the deal.
Right, to try to collect together a consensus, if you will, so that it's not just the U.S. versus Iran, that it's Iran versus the rest of the people on the deal. Now, Iran has, in fact, violated provisions of this deal. It's not just the spirit of the deal, unless I'm mistaken. They're soft violations, perhaps. I believe that's what they're called. But they have violated it by having more metric tons of heavy water than they're supposed to.
That's right. Iran was required to keep its supplies of heavy water beneath a certain limit. It's violated that on 2 occasions. It's also been caught red-handed. Its agents have been caught red-handed in Germany trying to buy prohibited dual-use nuclear technology, and that indicates its intention to continue building a clandestine nuclear program.
Right, and I don't think that comes as a surprise to anyway. Jim, let me go one step deeper here. When we look at Iran's behavior as a whole, you know, they sponsor terrorism, they took hostages, American hostages, they harass our Navy sailors, they harass other ships in international waters, they're exporting arms to Palestinian terrorists, they're supporting Hezbollah terrorists, they're supporting the Syrian militias, the Yemeni rebels here. Why are we even doing business with them in the first place?
Well, I think President Obama saw himself as a transformative figure, and this deal really doesn't make sense unless you assume or presume that Iran has changed its spots. Now, I and most people would say Iran hasn't changed its spots and point out to the long list of violations and other challenges you mentioned. But I think this administration really doesn't get it, and the president believes that the nuclear deal, although it's narrowly focused on the nuclear program, he thinks that that eventually will transform Iran to the point that it can be trusted to actually carry out this deal. And
right.
I think that's a very dangerous assumption.
Right, and I mean this with all due respect to the office of the presidency, but it seems to me displaying incredible naivete by President Obama, thinking that this kind of deal, this kind of restrictions would actually change the hearts and minds of the Iranian government, people who are committed to terrorism, committed to wiping Israel off the face of the earth, committed to calling America the great Satan. I mean, a piece of paper is not going to change their mind, but it is going to put a lot of other people, Iranians, Americans, our allies in the Middle East, in danger here. Jim, there's been another recent violation of the nuclear deal, and I want to get your take on this. General Soleimani from Iran, he was caught on camera, photographs and some video in Syria, touring Aleppo, and this is a violation of the UN travel ban against him, which is, in a sense, part of this nuclear deal.
Yeah, I think it's part of the some of the UN Security Council resolutions that were mentioned in the deal, and this general is basically Iran's viceroy for its expanding military intervention in Syria, also in Iraq, and Iran also has violated other UN Security Council resolutions by providing arms not only to Palestinian terrorists but to the Houthi rebels in Yemen. And I think all of those actions should be taken into account when judging the deal itself.
Right, and this General Soleimani, he's not just the head of the military activities in Iran. He himself is directly responsible for the death of American citizens here. Jim, I don't understand why this is not enough for Obama to forsake this deal.
Well, I think this is a case of the president turning the other cheek after General Soleimani, who was the head of the Quds force, the Jerusalem force that was responsible for the deaths of more than 600 Americans in Iraq. This is a signal I think the White House is sending to the Iranian leaders that bygones will be bygones. We're giving you a clean slate. Let's turn over a new leaf. But I think that's a very dangerous assumption.
Right. I think it just shows that the Iranians are not afraid of Obama, which honestly is not only pathetic, it's embarrassing for the U.S. and it's dangerous for our standing in the world against so many forces that want to, or that would want to cause harm to us. Jim, we're out of time for today, but thank you so much for being here. It was great to talk to you.